Good evening. I'd like to call to order our February legislative meeting of the Board of School Directors of the Upper Dublin School District rather. Welcome. It is 7:04 in the evening here in the Cardinal Room of Upper Dublin High School. If we could stand, please, for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you. Ms. Evans, if we could have roll call, please.
Dr. Davis. Mr. Henderson. Ms. Ionity. Dr. Levinowitz. Mr. Ropsky. Mrs. Sherpier. Mr. Sirota. Mr. Wallach. Mrs. Franczyk.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. This evening, if we could start with a welcome. I just want to wish everyone a happy Monday. I also wanted to acknowledge our Black History Month celebrations that are happening throughout the district, and in particular to thank the parent members of our Black and African American students and families group who are preparing for an event later this week, and Dr. Yanni will be talking a bit more about that. I also wanted to make you aware of an item in the agenda. We've begun to add some written reports to our liaison reporting, and that's just to give the community a better sense of what the board is doing when we're not here having meetings. We also will be making a change to the schedule. Next month's legislative meeting was supposed to be March 23rd, which also happens to be Advocacy Day for members of PSBA and two other groups in Harrisburg. So we will be announcing a new date for that meeting soon. It's probably going to be the following Monday, but we are just confirming the calendar. With that, I will turn it over to Daniel Kaplan and the Student Government Association.
Thank you, Mrs. Franczyk. While this month may be a shorter one, it has been quite the celebratory one. As previously said, this February, as seen by our display in the lobby, the high school has been celebrating Black History Month. Additionally, we have been giving a lot of thanks and appreciation to our guidance department as they've been working hard since the start of the third marking period in order to help students choose their 2020 to 2021 school year classes. As for academics, our 8 2019 National Merit Scholars have all moved on to the finals, and we commend them for their academic success. Also, many of our students in the junior class recently received invitations to be part of the National Honor Society. In club news, our very own Key Club recently hosted their annual blood drive in the auxiliary gymnasium upstairs on February 12th. They were able to receive a total of 75 different participants. Additionally, the date for the 2021 annual Minithon has been set for March 5th of the next calendar year. Applications for this year's executive board were released last Friday and will be due this coming Friday. It should be noted that our winter sports are now starting to come to a close, with teams competing in their upcoming league championships. Both our girls and boys swimming and diving teams won the 2020 Suburban 1 conference titles. In addition, our girls basketball team is preparing to verse Methacton on Friday and are working hard for successful endings to their 18-8 season. Lastly, our music and arts department is also doing very well. The band, orchestra, and choir are preparing for their Music in Our School Months concert at the end of March and their spring concerts in May. Furthermore, our spring musical production of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella is entering its final stages of preparation, and our actors and actresses are getting ready for their performances on March 12th, 13th, and 14th. It appears as the year is starting to get busier and busier, and students are finding the school year is already slowly coming to a close with AP tests right around the corner. Thank you.
Just for the record, Daniel will be in Cinderella. I had to get that on the microphone for you.
What role are you playing in Cinderella?
But his name's Sebastian. He's like the villain of it all.
Excellent. It's always the most fun to play the villain,
Yes.
correct? Okay. Well, break a leg.
Thank you so much.
and you are welcome to depart. Thanks for being here tonight, because he has other work to do, not because he doesn't want to stay, right? Thanks for coming. All right, moving on to Dr. Yanni's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Francic. So how many of you know that this is National Public Schools Week? Learning First, thank you, Dr. Levinowitz. Learning First Alliance celebrates this week every year. Public Schools Week is designated for administrators, teachers, specialists, para-educators, parents, guardians, and school board members to speak to their local communities and legislators about the importance of public education. One of the main functions of our leadership team and of the board is advocacy, and so during this week we have some meetings. Our superintendent group has some meetings planned with some local legislators to speak about different issues affecting public education. As Mrs. Francic said, on Friday evening, we will have the UD Celebrate Black History Month celebration. I had the opportunity to attend last year. It was a great night. It was a lot of fun. It was really well attended, and I know this year's event is going to be great. It takes place in this building from 6 to 8 p.m. on Friday, and registration information will go out with the superintendent's report, but I know they already have a really good crowd signed up, so we're looking forward to that. Last week, the Department of Education released 2019 SAT scores. We saw our composite score jump from 1188 to 1208. We saw our ranking in the county, so comparing Upper Dublin to all Montgomery County districts, go from 6th to 4th. And when we look at our peer district comparisons, we've jumped from 12th to 8th. We are 19th out of the 653 schools in the Commonwealth with available scores. Last year we were 29th. So we're digging into this data like we do with all other data points to determine what caused that improvement and how we can sustain it moving forward. Over the weekend, students from the high school and Sandy Run participated in the annual Pennsylvania Junior Academy of Science competition that was held in Souderton. At the high school level, 26 of our students took first place awards, 14 students took second place awards, and 4 of our students took third place awards. First place award winners will go on to the state competition in May, and they'll actually get to do their presentations at Penn State. 3 of our students, Charlotte Quee, Maisie Weiss, and Nathan Yang, were recognized with perfect scores and received monetary awards from Merck Pharmaceuticals. At the middle level, 12 students took first place and 4 students took second place. First place winners will have the same opportunity to present their research at Penn State. There's much more information that's linked to my superintendent's report, so you can see the various projects that our students worked on. The community knows that we shared some drone footage and updated photos of the Sandy Run Middle School site. Had the opportunity to walk the site last week with Dr. Levinowitz, and I will point out that I had work clothes and work shoes on, and I was still able to scale the side of the mountain. Dr. Levinowitz had some good sneakers on that was able to get him, I think he was worried about me going up the one hillside, but the building pad is taking shape. Our underground water basins that take stormwater from the neighborhood and the top part of Sandy Run is working, and the planetarium is starting to take shape. So the mild weather has been a really great positive thing for the construction of the new school. So we will keep everyone updated on that. Tonight, we're asking the board to consider the approval of a charter school funding reform resolution. Upper Dublin, in round terms, pays $350,000 a year for 13 students in cyber school. Cyber charter or brick and mortar charter schools. The vast majority of those students attend virtual online charter schools. So several years ago, the average cost to educate a student in a cyber charter was between $2,800 and $3,200 a year, and yet districts were paying anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000 for regular education students, and $30,000 to $40,000 a year for students with special needs. So Governor Wolf has talked about implementing some reforms that will rein in some of the costs, because the cyber charter schools in particular are not performing as well as even the lowest performing public schools in our state, but yet they are making profits. They become sort of Fortune 500 companies, if you will. Evening for a Good Cause on Saturday, March 21st, 2020. The annual Monte Carlo night will be held at the Mercedes-Benz dealership in Fort Washington. This event is co-hosted by the Upper Dublin Education Foundation and Upper Dublin Township, and the proceeds go to our Education Foundation to fund grants for teachers and students, and also to township programming. Also, remember to stay up to date by checking our website, following many of us on Twitter, and also following the district Facebook page.
Thank you so much. Okay, an uncharacteristically brief agenda, I guess, for an uncharacteristically brief month of February. So no presentations this evening. That moves us right into our first community input. So if you have any community input, please come on up and state your name and where you reside.
Anita Brister, Fort Washington. Just a pretty easy question, I think. At the budget town hall, which I do appreciate you had, I wish it had been better attended, but I was there, so I think it was a worthwhile event. But anyway, at the budget town hall, I mentioned, I just go through my mind, what are the ways in the past that deficits have been reduced? And one of them was a teacher give back. I haven't heard anything that's going to happen or not happen. If it happens, I'm sure it'll have to be, it'll be a surprise to the public. But I remembered that the other thing, and this is done even when you don't have a deficit sometimes, is that the year I'm thinking of is 2013. I'm sure we've had other smaller deficits, but that was a pretty big one that year. So the district offered an early retirement incentive program that year, and it saved, I don't know, it was a lot of money. It was, I think, $800,000 was saved. The point being that teachers that are close to retirement anyway would get a little extra money, but in the long run, it saves the district a lot of money because you can hire somebody who's not at the top of the pay scale, assuming you replace those teachers. So anyway, I just wondered if the administration is considering that as a way to reduce the deficit. That's it.
Thank you. Just a reminder, the first input session is for agenda items. I'm not sure that those items are on there, but there's only two of you, so come on up. Mrs. Vitella? Okay. All right. Seeing no, oh, yes, I guess we should respond. Dr. Yanni.
So the question about have we considered a retirement incentive? As of today, we know of 7 retirements that will be approved on next month's legislative agenda. And in the teacher's contract that was approved last year, there's a $2,500 incentive for announcing early by March 1st. So at this time, there are no other plans to look at a teacher retirement incentive. Retirement incentives are particularly good if you don't have to replace the positions. So at this time, we're not looking at anything further.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other community input, that section is closed, and we will have more later. Next up, Mr. Leckman, do we have any announcements this evening?
Yes, there's just one minor item for item 8A, the enrollment report on the agenda. The attachment in the agenda now is updated, but earlier, if anyone printed it off or looked at it, the total numbers on the bottom right-hand corner for February 2020 were off, so they now read 4,089 for district classes, 13 for IU classes, and a total of 4,102. That's all.
Thank you very much. Dr. Davis, the minutes? If you would like to make a motion, or I can.
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Ms. Ionity. Anybody have any questions or comments about the agenda, or the minutes to be approved? All right, seeing none. Everybody in favor of approving the minutes tonight? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. All right, moving on to the Education Committee, Mrs. Sherpier.
All right, there are 4 items. Item A is the enrollment, so that's information only. I'd like to take item B separately and then C and D together, if that's okay.
Sure.
So item B is a recommendation to approve the K-3 adoption of Fountas and Pinnell classroom materials. They were piloted, and I would say successfully. The intent is that this new material will support our district's goal to achieve 100% reading levels, or 100% of our students reaching the reading levels at grade level or above by 3rd grade. And so I recommend that we approve the purchase of the materials. Oh, and I also want to add that a large part of this is paid for by a grant, and the rest is covered by the curriculum office.
Hold on a second. Okay, we're going to finish this item, and then we are going to go back and review something about the minutes. So we have a second. Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments about these items for the Education Committee? All in favor, then, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? These items are approved. All right.
All right.
Dr. Yanni.
Mr. Leck,
Sorry.
Hang on 1 second. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Mrs.
Yeah.
Teacher.
Mr. Leckman, do we have minutes to approve this evening?
Yes, we do. Do you want me to say what they are?
Yes, please.
Sure. We have committee meeting minutes. So we have committee meeting minutes from January 8th for the Education Committee and Policy Committee, and January 23rd, the Finance Committee, and then the January 27th legislative meeting.
Is there a motion to approve? Dr. Davis. Thank you. Do we have a second? Thank you, Ms. Iannitti. Anybody have any comments or questions? Thank you. Everybody that would like to vote for approving the minutes now, again, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Now they are approved officially. All right, Mrs. Sherpier, sorry to interrupt the flow there. If you could pick up where we left off.
No problem. There are 2 other items from the Education Committee that I'd like to recommend that the board approve, and those are student activities and conferences. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Levinowitz. Do we have any comments or questions about these items? Everybody in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The items are approved. All right. And we are on technology recommendations, which we have none, and pupil services recommendations. Mrs. Sherpier.
2 items to approve, one a service item and an educational agreement. I recommend that we approve those.
Do we have a second? Any comments or questions about these items? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items are approved. All right, Mr. Sirota.
So on the agenda, we have items listed under Operations Committee and a set of items listed under Finance. So I'll take them that way. In the future, I think we will be combining these, but since they're that way here, I will do it this way. So we have 2 items under the Operations Committee recommendations. Both were discussed last week at the Finance Committee, and I move that we accept both of them, or approve both of them.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Robsky, I got you. You got in first. Any comments or questions? I just like to make a brief comment about the LEED Gold piece. We had a very favorable report from Mr. Fazil at the last Finance Committee meeting regarding our status and our progress toward obtaining the certification. So I think we were all really pleased to see that, and congratulations to the team working on the building related to that. All in favor of approving these items, say aye. Any opposed?
Ms. Francis,
Yes.
on item number B, I abstain from that half of the motion.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Wallach, thank you. Would you kindly explain your abstention?
Sure, I'm abstaining from that vote because in my professional capacity, I have done legal work for the contractor that's the subject of Part B of the motion.
Thank you.
Unrelated to the Sandy Run Middle School project.
Great, thank you very much. No, that's great. Seeing no other comments, I believe we've had our vote, and the items are approved.
Okay,
With
moving-
an eight votes yay and one abstention. Okay, very good. Just on B.
I apologize, I was asked to make that motion separately, and I forgot. My apologies.
It's okay.
All right, moving on to the Finance Committee recommendations. We have 8 items. All 8 were discussed last week at the Finance Committee, and I move that we accept all 8. Or
Second.
approve all 8.
From anybody?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Any comments or questions about these items? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? The items are approved. Okay. And we are up to
Personnel.
personnel, Dr. Levinowitz.
Make a motion that we approve the entire personnel report as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Sirota. Any comments or questions about the personnel item? Mr. Sirota was the second. And seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Policy, Mr. Wallach, please.
Thank you. I'm going to do it in 2 parts, do A and B together and then C and D together. A and B are second reading, A approval and B repeal of policies. We have 7, if I counted correctly, yes. 7 policies are up for second reading. These are policies that have been through first reading at this board level and have been through policy committee twice. They are P126, 131, 210, 814, 817, 908.1, and 919. And then we are repealing 5 policies, 823, 830, 815.3, 815.4, and 815.5, the last 3 of which are now encapsulated in a new policy that's being approved for second reading. So I'll make a motion for items A and B.
Thank you, Mr. Sirota. And any comments or questions?
Just a quick comment on the AR for the class size. Just want to thank the administration for making that correction. We originally had 25 for 3 to 5, and we did bring it back down to 24. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Levinowitz, and thank you, administration. Seeing no other comments or questions, let me vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The items are approved.
And then I'll move on to items C and D, which are first readings and first reading repeals. These are policies that were discussed for the first time at this month's policy committee meeting. We have 7 first reading policies, P303, 307, 311, 312, 313, 705, and 707. We have a whole bunch that are being repealed for first readings, and I won't go through they're listed here. There's a number of them that are being repealed because they're being consolidated into one policy that will cover all of those items. So I'll make a motion to approve for first reading items C and D.
Thank you, Mr. Sirota. Any comments or questions on these items? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The items are approved. All right, very good. In other business, Dr. Darlene Davis, if you could walk us through that.
Yes, we have a resolution that we're asking the board to approve regarding charter funding reform. There are 2 goals that are listed, and we would ask for your support for that resolution.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Dr. Levinowitz. Any comments or questions from the board? Certainly think this is very much in line with the goals of the forthcoming Advocacy Day that most of us will be attending around our advocacy for public education and the reforms to charter funding so that we can protect the funding for our schools. All in favor of this resolution, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The resolution is approved. Thank you. All right, moving on now to the Liaison Committee reports. As I said, we do have reports from our liaisons this evening. And if we could start with Dr. Davis, the MCIU.
The Montgomery County IU has not met since our last legislative meeting. We do meet this Wednesday, and I'll have a report for the next meeting.
Thank you. I do have an update for and actually in the notes, the reports are reversed, and I'm just noticing that. So the MCIU update is listed as being from 2/19. That was actually my update from the MCIU legislative, and Dr. Davis's update that there was no board meeting. They should just be flipped. Thank you, Ms. Evans. So the legislative update is, as I've stated a couple of times, we have our Advocacy Day coming up on March 23rd. I'm pleased to say that our entire board and Dr. Yanni are all signed up to attend, and perhaps there'll be a gold star when we arrive for us. But it really is a very important day. I attended last year, and the primary issues that we're going to be discussing beyond charter school reform are the growing teacher shortage, which is affecting all districts in Pennsylvania, including ours, the future of PlanCon, which certainly has been a topic here in Upper Dublin related to construction costs and the fact that that program has gone into, I guess, hibernation. And also, there's been some discussion recently about possible changes to how out-of-district students are transported. Currently, they're transported within 10 miles outside of district boundaries across the state, and there's a number of districts that are asking that radius to be shrunken, though that is not something we've talked about much here. It is something that some of our neighboring districts are advocating for, so we'll be learning more about that. Beyond that, I just want to also make mention of the MCIU Legislative Breakfast, Friday, March 27th in the morning. For anyone on the board who would be willing to attend, we're going to have another opportunity to interface with our local legislators, and I will be there to represent us then as well. For our next update, if we could have Dr. Levinowitz for Eastern.
I'm just reading what I provided the board. We had legislators that recently have visited Eastern. We had the governor, we had Commissioner Valakouche, Senator Collette will be visiting us in the near future. In case you haven't heard, there's a new program that we're beginning in the fall, the Robotics and Automated Technology, and we hired the teacher, or we stole the teacher from another district. We're very excited about that individual who's been teaching for many years. It's a situation where you are not bringing in a new teacher and paying him or her at a low salary, but we're very pleased about that. We hired a school-to-career coordinator, which I think is so critical at CTCs. We hired a new culinary art instructor because the prior one is our new school-to-career coordinator. There are 5 new JOC members that we've already done some training for.
Can you clarify JOC for?
Joint Operating Committee is the board.
Thank you.
That's and then we did hire Dewey Engineering to conduct a facility feasibility study at Eastern. And again, the open house is March 1st.
Great, thank you very much. Ms. Ionity, the Equity and Empowerment Steering Committee, please.
Okay, on February 4th, the Special Education Advisory Council of Upper Dublin hosted a talk with 3 board-certified behavior analysts. 2 of them work right here in the district, Ann Horrocks and Kim Echeverria. And also they were joined by parent and speak member Allie Wilbur, and they help parents decode their child's behavior, taught parents to what to look for, what happens before the behavior, and what happens after, and how that can help you work with your child. And we're so grateful that they donated their time. This Friday, as it's been mentioned a few times already, the Upper Dublin High School African American Black Student and Family Committee, the Upper Dublin High School Black Student Union, and the Upper Dublin Public Library will celebrate Black History Month. Right here, 6 to 8 p.m. The event features presentations by Dance Fit of Chestnut Hill, the Afro-Brazilian martial arts artist Mandiga Capoeira of Philadelphia, Clean Comic Dwayne Brake, spoken word artist Greg Corbin, historical reenactor Millicent Sparks, plus retail vendors, food vendors, dancing, and more. So don't miss that. And Upper Dublin will be hosting a World Cafe Thursday, April 2nd, to discuss equity and inclusion. More details will be coming soon about that.
Thank you, and I look forward to Friday night. All right, we have next our EAC, Mrs. Sherpier.
Oops. The EAC met on February 5th, and the 3 topics that have been the focus continue to be discussed: the IB, International Baccalaureate, GRID, and project-based learning. The expectation is there will be 3 reports before the end of the school year, and the next meeting will be March 4th.
Thank you. And Mr. Henderson, Pennsylvania School Boards Association.
Yes, as we mentioned earlier, the Advocacy Day in Harrisburg is scheduled for the 23rd of March, and we will all be participating in that. And we will have our first round of sectional meetings. The first is on March 30th.
If you can move the mic just a bit closer. Thank you.
Will be on March 30th at East Penn School District and on April 7th at the School District of Haverford Township.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And the township, Mr. Robsky or Sirota?
Yeah, we did not meet. We will be meeting March 31st.
Thank you. And Mr. Wallach, the Upper Dublin Ed Foundation.
Thank you, Ed. It's January board meeting. The Ed Foundation handled a number of procedural and administrative matters. The former president stepped down, which necessitated new officers being elected to both president, vice president, and a new secretary. All that information's on the website. The big thing the foundation is doing right now is it's in the final stages of its strategic plan. There's been a lot of work put into that by some very dedicated volunteers in our community. And I think this is going to be a great thing for the Ed Foundation moving forward, as it will help establish goals and strategies to fundraise for the purposes for the Ed Foundation to support the district. While all that's going forward, the Ed Foundation does have a couple of major events coming up in March. As Dr. Yanni said, Monte Carlo night is March the 21st. Tickets are on sale. You can get them on the Ed Foundation website. And Music in the Schools, the choral concert is March the 24th, and the instrumental concert is March the 31st. Tickets are on sale for those as well, all of which will ultimately, the proceeds go to the foundation for the benefit of district programs and innovations.
And if you have not been to any of those 3 events, they're some of the most fabulous, and in particular, there's nothing like the Music in Our Schools concerts where all those students perform from all grade levels together. It's one of my favorites, and I hope you'll be there. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time and attending all those meetings and providing the reports. Mr. Diazio, Solicitor's Report.
Thank you. I have the Sunshine Act announcement for this evening, and that is that the board met in executive session for an hour prior to tonight's meeting to discuss a number of matters involving personnel and confidential student matters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now have our second session of community input. If you'd like to come on up, please do so.
Ginny Vitella Ambler, and I can't help but notice that there's no one representing the PTAs and the PTOs anymore. And I'd like to know why that is, considering the PTOs and PTAs the school district relies heavily on to support the students in many ways. Buses for field trips, building improvements, supplies, and extracurricular items that teachers like in their daily lives and calendars and other things. So I think it's interesting that they are no longer being represented here. Thank you.
Seeing no other community members, we will close community input, and I can certainly field any feedback from the board at this time. My only comment about the liaison role to the PTOs and PTAs, we have no jurisdiction over the operation of the PTOs and PTAs, and what we're really trying to do is focus on those items where we do have a formal role, and that's certainly something that we can discuss outside of a meeting. In seeing no additional feedback for this evening, we are up to comments from the board and superintendent on any other matters. All right, seeing none, we have information regarding upcoming meetings. Mr. Diazio.
The meetings are presented in the agenda for the month of March.
And as I said, we are going to be rescheduling the the legislative meeting from March 23rd. And we'll make an announcement about that soon. Seeing no other business before the board this evening, I would like to officially adjourn. We are adjourned.